Should you trust supplement companies? Probably not at all, honestly. Um, I will say that I think that supplements work, and I think that in certain situations they do work. Um, but the number of situations in which supplements are useful is a lot less than most people think. And further, um, basically, like you see, say like a Mr. Olympia competitor, let's say Phil Heath, um, and he's got all these supplement endorsement deals where he's saying, "Oh yeah, like I use this, and this, and that's what makes me so big." Problem with that is, he's already, like virtually every Olympia competitor is already on so many different steroids and other, like illegal, drugs that, like what are supplements doing at that point? Like the difference is minimal. I get a lot of people coming to me asking me questions like, should I do this supplement? Should I do that supplement? Um, and 99% of the time the answer is no. Because, like, you shouldn't trust supplement companies, first of all. Supplement companies have a history of being really fucking weird and screwing with people in order to make money. There's a few really good articles about this. Jason Blaha kind of talks about it because he's been around for a while. He's seen some of it. Not that I approve of everything Jason Blaha says, but essentially, supplement companies have done stuff to make profit that like basically involves hurting their consumers. The supplement industry is barely regulated, which is to say that pretty much not at all. They can put pretty much whatever the hell they want in their supplements and get away with it. So that being said, for example, you have like things like they'll cut a supplement with like a cheaper product in order to increase their profit margins. So you'll get, for example, like protein powder that's cut with like just basically like dextrose or like a simple sugar or lots of creatine because creatine is cheaper, or just anything so that like they can sell you this stuff and they can call it protein powder when you're actually getting less protein than kind of what they're claiming. And further, like there's lots of just them making really shoddy science saying like, oh yeah, like we've done this one study that proves that X improves strength or endurance or hypertrophy or whatever, and then later on it's discovered that like that study was complete shit and they didn't really know like it didn't really prove anything and it was very poorly controlled, and as a result we discover, oh yeah, X is completely useless. There have also been instances in the past of supplement companies putting steroids, oral steroids, into your supplements, and they do this in essence in order to make the supplements, actually work, because most of these supplements don't really do much of anything. And so what they'll do is they'll take a crappy supplement and they'll put some oral steroids in it, and then people take it and they'll be like, oh man, I'm seeing some really great gains. And then of course they'll take the steroids out, at a certain point, so that like, so that they don't get in trouble with the law. And then people will still take this stuff because it's developed a good reputation, even though there's no longer steroids in it. And like that's not necessarily necessarily a problem per se, except that oral steroids are typically the least healthy of steroids. B, it's illegal, and C, you could accidentally trade in your natty card without even knowing it. Like, oh, oops, you tested positive for steroids, despite the fact that you weren't, actually you didn't think you were taking steroids. That's all stuff that they've done. And oftentimes supplement companies will try and hide what's actually in their product by, calling it like a proprietary blend. So like, they'll say, oh yeah, like protein powder, it's got like protein, it's got like, a bunch of other stuff we put in it, it's got this proprietary blend, whatever that is, they don't tell you. And that's where they hide it, is they say, it's a proprietary blend, aka something that we don't want to tell you about. So, that could, and again, that could be anything. That could be them cutting it with a shit ton of creatine. That could be them, adding steroids. That could be them adding stuff that, like, is really questionable. they don't really have any obligation to tell you, so they don't. Um, and you also have to understand that there are essentially two major supplements that we know work and are useful, and have like a really big benefit. Those are protein powder and creatine. That is it. And protein powder, if you're getting enough protein from like the rest of your diet, you don't need to take protein powder. So typically, most people need about 0.8 grams per pound of body weight per day. And for me, for example, that's about 160 grams of protein a day. If I get 160 grams of protein from meat and whatever I'm eating, I don't need protein powder. Period. That's it. You don't need extra protein after the 0.8. Your body really doesn't respond to it at all. So like a lot of people kind of fetishize protein powder, like, oh yeah, you need tons of protein powder to get strong. Well, no, you don't. You just need protein. And so if you get enough protein elsewhere, you really don't need protein powder at all. So I don't really do protein powder much anymore. Obviously, the one main draw of that is like ease of use. So you can toss together a protein shake pretty quickly. That's a lot faster than cooking up some chicken breast or steak or whatever. So that is useful, but again, only really useful if you can't get your protein in otherwise. The other thing is creatine. Creatine has been shown, to improve strength, across the board, because it's essentially a form of energy that, is stored in your muscles, used in, sort of all-out anaerobic lifts. So it will improve your strength. That's about all it does. Now, some people are low responders or non-responders because they naturally have, sort of the max amount of creatine in their body in the first place. So some people won't even see that much of a benefit from it. These are the two most studied and most effective supplements there are, and they're not even useful in all situations. Virtually everything else is either poorly studied or it is studied pretty well, but the effects are pretty minor. Like, for example, BCAAs, they can be useful if you need endurance, or if you're getting really, like, if you're getting lots of, if you're a vegetarian in particular, if you're not getting like full protein sources in. But on their own, it's basically just protein. So like, that's about it. It's same kind of stuff as with regular protein. And you also have to understand that a lot of these supplement companies will mix all this crap together in an effort to make things seem more useful. So like, if you could have pure protein powder versus protein powder with creatine and BCAAs in it, well, obviously the protein powder with the other stuff in it is probably going to do a little bit better than the stuff without it, and those things again may be cheaper to make than protein. So why not put some of that in there? And so what you have to understand is that, like, oftentimes like, you don't need to get protein powder and creatine and BCAAs on their own, because they're all in the same, they're already in like probably the protein powder you get. Most people really don't need very many supplements, and further, it could potentially be very damaging to your health if you took a supplement that had something in it that isn't supposed to be there. It could be dangerous to your health. So in general, I don't trust supplements. I use creatine myself. I use some protein powder every now and then, but that's it. And admittedly, the supplement industry is huge, and that's why they try and convince people that supplements are necessary and important, but they really aren't that big of a, when you actually look at the science, they really aren't that big of a deal in most people's, in most people's performance. What I tell people is that if you look at this whole, like a pie chart of everything that contributes to, your strength or your size or whatever it is that you're training for, if you look at that pie chart, I would say that about, you've got like your diet, you've got your exercise, you've got your recovery, sleeping, stuff like that. You've got your water consumption, you've got various other things. I would say that once you take all that stuff out of the way, supplements account for like a few percent. Like 3 to 5% of the equation. A very, very small part of it, and also they're the most expensive part of it aside from your gym membership. obviously, like real drug, like real hard stuff like steroids and HGH and stuff like that can be very costly. But so can regular supplements, and not only are regular supplements very costly, they're not very effective for most things. Versus, like steroids and stuff like that, which are very costly, but, well, not steroids, but HGH in particular is very costly. And those actually work. Of course, they're illegal, but again, it's sort of like a cost benefit analysis sort of thing. The cost is way out of line with the actual benefit that you're getting out of it, and the supplement industry tries to convince you otherwise so that they can keep making money. So should you trust the supplement industry? No. Should you take supplements? Maybe. That's really all that I have to say about that.